Amanda is all alone. Her once beloved husband has left her for another woman, and her beloved son John has died. Soon it will be a year since her favorite son is gone. John bought a car and promised his mother that he would take her to the ocean because she dreamed of going there. But they never did. He was killed in an accident. Amanda dreamed about John every day he apologized to her mother. She woke up crying and couldn't come to her senses for a long time. That night Amanda did not sleep. Her heart was aching. And in the morning she dreamed that her son was knocking on the door and asking to be let in. Not remembering herself, Amanda jumped out of bed and ran to open the door. There was no one on the doorstep. She leaned against the door and cried. How could it be, John? Why did you leave me? How shall I go on living? Tell me, she said aloud. Her heart began to whimper again. Amanda decided to sit down on the porch to take away some of the pain. Suddenly there was the sound of a baby crying in the silence. She walked over to where the crying was coming from. There was a basket by the tree and a baby lying in it. Amanda took the basket and ran into the house. When Amanda removed the blanket that covered the baby, she found that the baby was wet and completely exhausted. She swaddled the baby and covered it with a warm blanket. Inside the basket was food for the baby. Amanda went to warm it up. The boy sucked on the food and smacked at it, just like her son John had done when he was little. Amanda cradled the baby against her and began to sing a song she had once sung to her son. The baby warmed up, and when he was full, he fell asleep. Amanda laid the baby on the bed and watched the baby. She smiled quietly as she marveled at how sweetly he slept. Then she called the police. After a while, the police arrived. After asking her about all the details, they took the baby from her to take it to an orphanage. She was confused, not knowing what to do, and asked the police to take her with them. At the shelter, while the child was being processed and examined by specialists, Amanda was in a state of confusion. She felt like she was doing something wrong, like she was missing something or losing something. Her heart ached again. She sat down on a chair. The director of the orphanage, seeing that Amanda wasn't feeling well, brought her some water. What shall we name the boy? She asked Amanda, since you're the one who found him. John, let's call him John, Amanda said promptly. The shelter director agreed. The workers picked up John and carried him away. Amanda walked out of the shelter, caught a cab and drove home. She walked into an empty house. A picture of her son hung on the wall. He was looking at Amanda and smiling. A lump rolled up to her throat. She walked over to the bed, lay down, and with her head tucked into the pillow, she cried. She remembered how she had met her husband, then they had John, how happy they had been. John grew up to be a very attentive and good son. And then her husband left her. John couldn't forgive his father for leaving the family. They never spoke to each other. John helped his mom with everything, just so she wouldn't feel lonely. He grew up, went to school, got a good job, and never forgot his mom. Always gave her gifts, showed her care. Amanda felt like she was the happiest mom in the world. Then she remembered the baby, how he sniffled when he fell asleep, just like her John when he was little. So she lay like that until evening. She had to find the strength to get up. It felt empty. Amanda sat down on the edge of the bed. Suddenly she saw that the plaid that had been used to cover the baby was lying on her bed. She tucked it aside as she picked up the baby from the basket. She took the plaid in her hands, and suddenly from it, a note fell to the floor. Unfolding the note, Amanda began to read, "Sweet and kind woman. Read this note to the end and please don't judge me. I got pregnant and when my boyfriend found out, he dumped me. I was alone, but I decided I was going to have the baby anyway. I had the baby, and after a while I started having severe headaches. I was examined and the doctors found a malignant tumor in my head. My parents judged me. I was probably not a good daughter, so they didn't want to hear anything about my child. I had nowhere to go for help. Please take care of my baby. His name is John." When Amanda read the child's name, she was surprised. It was as if it was her son giving her some kind of message. In the morning, just waking up, Amanda drove to the orphanage. The director of the shelter recognized her. Amanda handed her a note and told her she wanted to take the baby for herself. "Okay," the shelter director told her. "I don't mind. You're still the right age. We'll help you." Amanda came out of the shelter with the baby in her arms. She held him close to her. Somewhere the emptiness went away. Her soul felt warm and good. She entered the house with the child, and it seemed to her that the house was filled with love and happiness. As she approached her son's picture, she saw him looking at her as if approvingly. Amanda smiled back at him. "I hope I can make it through this, son," she told the picture. "I have to be strong. After all, I have a son now." Amanda looked at little John, who was now sleeping in his new crib. She felt like her life had changed forever. Every day the boy became more and more like her late son. His smile, his look, even his laugh. Amanda often found herself thinking that this was a miracle given to her by fate. The years passed, and little John grew into a confident young man. He knew his history. He knew about the note his birth mother had left in the basket. And he loved Amanda as his real mother. He often told her that he considered himself the luckiest man on earth because he had a mother like Amanda. Amanda was a good mom to her son. John became a pilot. From different countries, he brought gifts to his mother and showed care for her in every possible way. One day he called her and told her to be ready by tomorrow. He would come to pick her up and they would go to the ocean. "John, how to the ocean?" "I can't," Amanda said. "Mom, there's no taking no for an answer. You've always wanted to go there. And my older brother wanted to take you there. It just so happens that he couldn't take you there. Now you're coming with me." "Mom, just please don't cry. You better get ready," John told her. When the day of their trip to the ocean arrived, Amanda packed her bags and her heart was overwhelmed with emotion. She remembered how years ago her son John had promised her the same trip. Now her second son was fulfilling that promise. They arrived at the ocean shore early in the morning, when the first rays of sunlight were just beginning to touch the waves. Amanda stepped out of the car and felt the cool breeze on her face. She closed her eyes and breathed in the sea air, full of salt and freedom. John stood beside her, holding her hand. "Mom, look," he said, pointing to the horizon where the sky met the ocean. Amanda opened her eyes and saw the sun had risen, illuminating the water with golden light. She felt tears on her cheeks. She hugged John and said, "Thank you, my dear son." You made my dream come true." John smiled and hugged her back and said, "I just love you, Mom." They stood like that, looking out at the ocean. And at that moment, Amanda noticed a small shell at her feet. She bent down to pick it up and saw that the shell was an unusual shape, resembling a heart. "Look, John, what a beautiful shell," she said, holding out the shell to him. John took the shell and examined it closely. "Mom, this must be a gift for you from the ocean," he said, smiling. They spent a lot of time on the beach that day, walking on the sand. And when the sun started to set, they got back in the car and drove home.